Salam alaikum. Shukran, Awi. I'm afraid my Arabic does not go much further than that, so I will have to switch back to English. Sorry. Welcome to our debates on early childhood and care this morning. Starting off right. And now, without further ado, I want to welcome my great colleagues on the stage with me. Starting with the, of course, ladies. And first of all, the local lady, if I may say so. Please, Butaina, if you want to tell us who you are. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Butaina Naimi of Qatar Foundation. The topic of early childhood education is important to me on two levels. First, professionally, as I oversee the pre-K to 12 education on Qatar Foundation, and personally because I have two young children who started nursery this year.
Thank you very much and welcome. Ahlan wa sahlan. We have another lady with us on stage. She comes all the way from Cambodia to talk to us. Samthi, who are you, please, and why are you here?
Je suis Kisampi. Je suis la directrice de l'organisation locale du Cambodge. Et mon organisation s'appelle Crusaille. C'est notre famille. Et je vais dire ici, c'est très, très ambitieux pour moi parce que je peux participer dans le partage des connaissances, des expériences que je fais longtemps. Et je prends conscience que je peux partager avec vous tous et je peux changer mes expériences avec vous tous aussi. Merci.
Leonardo.
Oh, I would like to start by thanking the organizers and sponsors of this initiative, because it's a great opportunity to exchange with other educators around the globe. My name is Leonardo Llanes, and I work for the Bernard Van Leer Foundation. It's an organization that tries to help children to get the best possible start by protecting them against violence, trying to encourage learning from birth, and securing that children always find a safe, healthy place to play. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome too. Colin, you're the only English native speaker on the stage. So, but I know that you can introduce yourself in French as well. Do as you wish.
Thank you very much, Bruno. I'm very grateful to be here. I'm not directly involved in educational science or educational studies. I'm a neuroscientist from the medical school in Oxford and also from the School of Advanced Study in London. And I believe that neuroscience will have increasing interaction with education. And I'm keen to learn from you about the opportunities in that area.
Thank you very much. Well, since you just said you're a neuroscientist, I guess we'll start with you, because the first part of our debate, there will be 4 parts, and we'll have a Q&A session, discussion with you at the end. What can you tell us about the young child's brain development that is relevant for education purposes today? What do you know, and what is it you don't know?
Yes. I think we have to recognize that education essentially depends on the organization of the brain. Ultimately, neuroscience will inform education at a very deep level. There has, in fact, been a great deal of knowledge gained in the last 20 or 30 years about the early stages of development of the brains of other animals and of human beings. And this all suggests that the brain is an extraordinarily plastic organ. It can change. It changes in response to stimulation, and those changes happen in different ways throughout life. Changing of the brain is not limited to the very, very early years of development, but the mechanisms and the rules of change vary across the lifetime. If we could learn about those characteristics in the human brain, it could become the rational basis for the design of educational methods and the educational curriculum at every stage. One crucial thing that we know is that the brain, relatively early in life, passes through a number of fairly distinct periods of sensitivity when it is specifically prepared to learn certain sorts of things. For instance, from animal studies, we know that the visual parts of the brain, which are at the back, can be changed very rapidly in their organization as a result of visual stimulation. It is certain that similar things happen in the human brain, and I think that we should pay attention to the possibility of the existence of other periods of sensitivity, especially for language, and I'm sure we will discuss language later, but possibly also for mathematics, for reasoning, for other forms of learning skills, which that knowledge could then become the basis for the design of the curriculum.
Thank you very much. Extremely relevant and interesting indeed. Samphi, I guess you have a question or
Yes,
comment about the impact of negligence or some sort of bad treatments on children on their development as far as brain and more is concerned, to Colin? Allez-y.
Oui, oui. J'aimerais présenter que c'est la négligence et la maltraitance et aussi que le stress, ça touche aux enfants. Ça touche au cerveau aux enfants. Parce que si les enfants sont malnutris, l'organisme n'a pas encore très vif et ça touche avec le développement du cerveau des enfants. C'est comme ça, je voudrais parler.
Oui, c'est en effet probable. Colin, can you please confirm from a neuroscientific point of view that all sorts of mistreating that children can unfortunately suffer is certainly detrimental to their brain development?
Yes. Of course, the most dramatic effects on brain development as a result of maltreatment occur before birth. The effects of alcohol, for instance, radiation, infections of the mother, and damage to the child at birth can produce devastating consequences for the organization of the brain. And those are very big problems for the classroom to deal with. But yes, Samp is right. Insults later in life can have more subtle but equally important effects. I suppose that the most dramatic, surprising but dramatic effect is simply the effect of deprivation, social and sensory deprivation. Studies of the development of learning ability, of behavior, of IQ show that deprivation of social stimulation can produce very, very dramatic changes in the measured IQ of children. And these become harder and harder to correct the older the child is.
Thank you. Leonardo, you have a question or a reaction
I
or
would like
comment
to
on
comment
that?
on some. Of course, we have been investing in young children learning long before neuroscience, all this kind of knowledge. And I think that intuitively maybe, but we were right. So by investing early. I like to make a distinction between education and learning. So when we talk about education, we try to think about the methodology I used to teach. And now with this neuroscience, we have everything, the real science and some kind of false prophet talking about neuroscience and making some circus around sending children like high school. So you have children at 2 years old, passing an admission test to go to a specific school to learn French, violin, and everything. So I think that the best thing that a child learns when they are born is to love, to be immersed in language, to know about play, explore the world, and you don't need a PhD to do that. So learning, I think, starts even long before birth, and I think it can be tested. Now we have enough evidence to show, but so it happened. Education, should we take the children to a specific center to learn? I have my doubts. We have a beautiful experience in Peru. We still need to intervene somehow. For example, in the highlands of Peru, often parents don't talk to babies until they are 3 because they say they are opa. Opa means like dumb. They don't respond. They don't understand. So why you waste your time talking to someone that doesn't talk back? By changing this pattern, just showing, you don't need an expert to do it, just showing how the children react when the mother speaks, when the father speaks, when the siblings come around playing. Only helping the mother to see, look at the eyes of your child, look what she's doing. They learn new things. We had the case, so I like the case of Carla because we made the video because it was so special. Because the mother say, I wish I knew this when I had my 2 first boys. Because this Carla is so lively, and the others just missed the chance. So I want to say that even though science is saying that the brain is plastic and things, it's important the first 3 years, but not to send it to university, to facilitate learning.
I see your point. Colin?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The general lesson that we've learned from neuroscience is that the brain is capable of rapid change and that it passes through periods of sensitivity for particular sorts of change. I agree there has been a rush to overinterpret those findings in terms of education, with a huge emphasis on very early exposure to formal teaching. Neuroscience provides no basis for that kind of action. Indeed, you're quite right. I mean, what we understand most from naturalistic observation of children and also rigorous behavioral experiments on children is that other forms of learning and experience are much more important than formal learning at an early stage, especially social learning, the development of social understanding and social cognition. And I think you were giving very good examples of that.
Well, with this, you already reached the second question, basically. But can you tell us more about that? Should we prepare children for academic skill to acquire academic skills, or should we really focus on social skills?
Yeah, I think there's a very important message here. The tendency, I think, around the world, for governments and for parents, when very early years education becomes available, when schooling for children down to 4 years or 3 years becomes available, the temptation is to start rigorous formal teaching as soon as possible. The natural feeling that this must be good because that's what children do at school. First, there are 2 lines of evidence against that. First, experience in systems that do start formal teaching very early, such as the United Kingdom, when compared with other comparable systems in Europe, in Scandinavia and Switzerland, for instance, which start formal teaching much later, 7, 8 years. Experience is that by the age of about 9 or 10, there's little difference in the performance of children. So in terms of formal teaching in mathematics and in English, in the case of the UK, or perhaps history, even science, all the evidence is that very early emphasis really has little benefit. So another problem with that approach is to say, what have we missed? What opportunities have we missed by concentrating on formal education very early? And the opportunity that we miss is to help children to develop the other skills, particularly social skills, skills of empathy and cooperation, which we know the brain is particularly sensitive to at that stage.
Thank you very much, Colin. Butaina, what about this, what has just been said in terms of transition to daycare, as far as language is concerned and more?
Early transition to daycare can benefit both the language development at children and socialization. When children play in the daycare, they both develop cognitively and socially. This is why we see the play is at the center of early education curriculum. Now, that role of the teacher when she, make the learning intentional, she facilitates, she scaffolds and support, and not directly and not overly direct the children.
I see. Can you please just unfold the word scaffolding in that case? Because I'm not sure that everybody's familiar with it.
It meaning supporting the learning opportunity, making the environment, adding more stimulus to the environment, enriching, but not from a distance, not directly.
I see. Thank you very much for this. So we can now move to our second aspect. So now we've set the stage about the young child's brain development. So what role can we actually expect educators to play? What role can we actually should hope for? What is it we should do as educators? What is it we should not do? What is it we can do? Something you certainly have something extremely important to tell us with your experience in your country and beyond.
Oui, merci. Mes collègues ont parlé beaucoup plus de l'activité qui concentrée et en plus stimuler les enfants à développer leur cerveau. Et en plus que c'est développer autre. Mais pour moi, j'aimerais parler que les éducations et en l'approche holistique. C'est pourquoi l'approche holistique? L'approche holistique, c'est pour répondre aux besoins des enfants, parce que tous les enfants ont des mêmes besoins, même n'importe qui reste dans la famille pauvre, même qu'il reste dans la famille riche ou dans quelques régions, les minorités et tout. Donc, nous voyons que l'approche holistique, ça répond. Ça veut dire que l'approche holistique, c'est on a utilisé que l'activité de stimuler les enfants à joindre le développement corporel, le développement intellectuel, le développement affectif et aussi social. Et c'est pourquoi, et c'est comment nous pouvons faire que nous devons travailler dans les aspects intégrés. C'est intégré. Quels sont les aspects intégrés? Les aspects intégrés sont la nutrition, la santé, l'hygiène, les activités, la création des activités. C'est comme que mon collègue a dit qu'on a fait les jeux. Mais on a fait les jeux, ce n'est pas seulement que les enfants aient grandi. C'est dans l'aspect que les enfants, dans l'ensemble de sa mère aussi, que les parents peuvent jouer avec la mère et ça peut toucher à l'affection des enfants. Après la naissance, les enfants ont besoin aussi que utiliser son opportunité à agir, à réfléchir, à faire les activités, à utiliser ses pensées. On pensait que les petits ne peuvent pas penser, ne peuvent pas réfléchir. Et dans mon pays, le Cambodge, les parents pensent que les petits enfants, pas la peine de faire aider à stimuler ces activités. Mais c'est au contraire. Les enfants peuvent utiliser ça sur ces environnements. Et là, le premier, l'endroit que les enfants apprennent, c'est la famille. C'est dans sa famille que les enfants peuvent réagir. Ce sont ces parents qui aident les enfants à stimuler tous ces développements. Exemple, je vous donne un exemple. La mère que balancer ses enfants et on a mis que tous les matériels, les couleurs et tout ça. Et les enfants voient et les enfants essayaient de faire réagir et les enfants tous. Et donc, le sang, les 5 sens se développent. Et les enfants écoutent qu'est-ce qui se passe pendant que je tousse. Et si on a mis quelque chose avec le son, c'est très très important. En plus, le son de la mère et aussi le son de son père. Le père peut chanter pour les enfants, le père peut raconter pour les enfants et le père peut jouer avec ses enfants. Ça, c'est un aspect, c'est très très vivant et on peut faire que dans l'ensemble de sa mère. Un autre point que ce n'est pas seulement dans la famille, c'est l'environnement, c'est toutes les personnes qui entourent des enfants aide les enfants à stimuler. On ne peut pas dire que c'est demander les enfants de faire ci, de faire ça. C'est créer la situation. C'est créer les jeux. C'est produire beaucoup de matériel et utiliser les quoi. On dit que nous sommes très pauvres. Nous n'avons pas l'argent pour acheter les jeux pour mes enfants. Mais on peut faire. On peut faire avec les matériels et les ressources existants dans le milieu. Et n'importe quelque chose. Mais faites attention aussi sur la sécurité pour les enfants. Et en plus que dedans, on peut dire que ce n'est pas seulement les deux aspects, les jeux, mais on peut dire que les personnes qui entourent aussi liées avec le local, le gouvernement, les les services sociaux qui aident à stimuler, à préparer, à former. C'est ça que l'animation parentale joue le rôle très très important. Je parle comme ça, ce n'est pas les parents pas de compétents du tout, mais on a manque quelque chose. Et dans les zones rurales, dans les zones très très misérables, et les parents pensent que l'économie, pensent que cherchent la vie. C'est ça que l'animation parentale, ça joue un rôle très important. On a discuté ensemble parce que c'est par exemple comme mes collègues et moi, j'ai une partie, mes compétences, et c'est mes collègues, c'est une autre. Donc, c'est on a mettre ensemble. Donc, les parents discutent de ces compétences et en plus, l'animateur peut ajouter les choses qui manquent. C'est ça que pour aider les parents à réfléchir pour aider leurs enfants. En plus, l'activité de relation entre les éducatrices, les parents, les comités des parents ou de soutien et les locaux, c'est une chance. C'est comme on a fait le relais et tout le monde centré sur l'enfant. Une autre point, c'est très très important que toutes les méthodologies que nous utilisons, même qu'à la maison, même à l'école, c'est la méthodologie centrée sur les enfants. Parce que ce n'est pas les adultes qui voudraient faire, c'est les enfants. Et en plus, ce que j'aimerais ajouter qu'en mot, c'est on peut dire que apprendre, c'est jouer, et jouer et apprendre. C'est comme ça. Et donc, tout le monde prend conscience de ça. C'est ça qu'on peut développer les enfants. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. You mentioned the relationship between parents on the one hand and the educational settings on the other. I think this is what our colleague from Qatar, Buthaina, is very interested in. So please, could you please tell us a few words about that, since you've worked on this, on the importance of the parent-school partnership in early education? Buthaina.
Parents are the child's first educator, and they have the biggest influence on children. And this is why the relationship between home and school should be really strong, and they should work in partnership. This is important because the parents have in-depth knowledge about their children. They know their weaknesses, they know their strengths, and it's important for them to discuss this with the teachers at school. So when they engage in an honest dialogue, they will be able to celebrate the achievements of the children and help them meet their challenges. Also, it's important for the parents to work with the school in order for them to build on what the children learned on schools. So continuity of experiences, of early experiences that children have is really important. You know, what they learned at home, what they learned in school, and in between. It's to have a very effective early education program. And the key feature of effective partnership is the communication, two-way communication between the family and the schools.
Well, thanks a lot for this. One more question, please, that I can't resist the temptation. My experience of communication between parents on the one hand and the school authorities, the teachers, etc. on the other, in Europe or in North America, instead of a very difficult one. Have you found a way to have this work better here? Can we learn something very important from your experience?
The school also play an important role in developing this partnership. The school has to welcome the parents in several ways. It's even like the setting, the environment, and encourage them. When the parents engage in classroom activities, because many parents lack the confidence in themselves. So when they come to the classroom, they will gain the confidence. It's also for the children. They feel confident when they see adults around them in the setting. So, my experience, I would say, inviting the parents. It's also the school's role. They should, play part of it. And also, it depends on the parents to be proactive and go there to the school. And yes.
And it works.
Participate.
It works.
Yes, it works.
Good. Excellent. I think as a parent, I will come here at some stage with my children. Colin, you might want to add a word on this, and we have a question coming from you regarding the brain plasticity and periodicity, or the sensitive periods again, because of course this is related to everything we are talking about here. And I read the question just as I have received it. If we find a sensitive period in one brain, is it generalizable to others? And if not, is it really helpful?
That's a good question. I think from what we understand from animal studies, the occurrence and the duration of these periods of sensitivity is remarkably constant from individual to individual. But what varies somewhat is the degree of sensitivity, how rapidly the brain can be reorganized as a result of experience, and the capacity of the individual for change. And that surely applies to children as well. I think that we have to accept that designing an education system that we think is fit for everyone, for all children, is entirely inappropriate. And I'm not just talking about the special needs, for instance, of disabled children. We have to recognize that there is variation in potential and ability amongst children. And the aim of education should be to recognize that potential in every child and exploit to a maximum the abilities of the individual.
Thank you very much. Well, now, given all this, and the fact that we probably should educate parents about the development of their children's brains, how can we, in your view, make sure that the parents understand the importance of early childhood education, in case they don't? Because I remember that discussing this with Sampi yesterday. She said that it was not necessarily the case in Cambodia. But please, you have certainly something to say about that, Butaina and Leonardo. And after Sampi, you might add something about the way people see that in Cambodia. It is interesting to have the different perspectives. Butaina?
Oui. Merci.
Oh, you want to go for it now? Yes, go for it. Go for it, please. Allez-y.
Maintenant, nous pensons que tous les jours, mais nous oublions une chose, c'est très important, que c'est les prendre soin des enfants dès l'enceinte de la mère. Donc, on a dit que c'est pré-postnatal et postnatal. C'est comment? Parce que ça, c'est lié avec le cerveau des enfants. Si la mère est malade ou se fait une chose, ça touche aux enfants. Et au Cambodge, les parents d'enfants, les jeunes parents pensent que ces enfants est malade, est handicapé ou c'est autre, et pendant qu'il naît, ce n'est pas son impact de ses activités. On pense à la croyance que c'est dans autre monde, on fait pas bien. Et ce monde-là, les enfants tous l'handicap comme ça. Mais au contraire, c'est ça que maintenant que même l'UNESCO, même l'UNICEF, on a préparé bien ça et on a fait beaucoup de médias pour utiliser, pour distribuer les informations aux parents et plus jeunes parents. C'est ça. Donc, comment nous pouvons faire que les enfants dans l'enceinte de la mère, c'est bien développé. Ce n'est pas seulement le cerveau, c'est tout. C'est tout. Et donc, c'est la nutrition, c'est très bien. Et la relation parents avec les enfants dans l'enceinte de la mère, c'est très bien aussi. Et en plus que les entours, et en plus que c'est la sécurité pour l'enfant. Et on peut discuter aussi pour que pendant l'accouchement, quelquefois on ne pense pas sur l'accouchement. Et une autre faute, c'est il y en a au Cambodge aussi que les jeunes c'est marié tôt et marié par les parentés et on a fait tout seul et aller en endroit avec les femmes dans le village. Après, c'est tous très très majeur sur les enfants. Et en plus qu'après, les enfants sont nés, non? On n'allait pas à l'hôpital encore une fois. Et pendant que l'accouchement, on a accouché dans le village. C'est ça que... Et en plus, au Congo, il y en a beaucoup dans la zone minorité. C'est comme ça.
Thank you very much for sharing this with us. Again, I very much like the idea of playing in the womb. I don't remember that very well personally, but I'm pretty sure I had a good time there. And I certainly felt more secure than any time after that. As far as precisely that you told us yesterday that in your country, a lot of people are convinced that children do not learn anything before the age of 6. I suspect that in this room we probably all know that children learn actually a lot before the age of 6 and even before birth, as you keep on repeating and stressing, which is good. But yet, precisely, if we have to deal with a situation like that, how can we better convince that parents that the first years are extremely important in terms of learning and etc. If they are not particularly sensitive to that, if they simply don't know, if they don't play with their children either in the womb or after birth. Butaina?
Parents' education is very important, and this is the role that schools play. Now, for the hardest transition for children and parents is the transition for the school, moving from home to school. Now, worried parents can really impact the children. If the children can sense that, can feel that. So it's very important that the parents really communicate with the school even before they bring the children to school. So, schools can have open days before the children come, for the parents to come and meet with the teachers, get acquainted with the facilities, with the building. It will help, have the transition as smooth as possible.
Thank you very much. Leonardo, you've worked in this sort of conditions as well, and you work with that. What can you tell us about this, according to your experience?
I found it very interesting because very often we ask ourselves, when you work with very poor population, and you see that parents not always understand or don't always have the time to think about the education of the children, we want to know more. How can we solve it? We did some surveys in Peru and Brazil, and to our surprise, parents, very humble parents, they want the children to proceed to go to school, even if the school is not doing something, it's not adding value, they want the children to go there. So they really value that. Even we saw it in India, in Odisha. So I think that normally parents want to, but not always they can or they think. So we have parents, for example, that they work from 3 in the morning to 9 that the same day, they don't see their children the whole day. So they live for every day. And it's difficult to expect that you're going to give a workshop to parents and to teach them how to. So we understand that early childhood education has to be tied with adult education. But not only that, has to be more holistic, as Sandy was saying. This program, for example, in Cuba, the Educa tu Hijo, now there are some other examples and being evaluated, but the interesting thing in that program is that Cuba is a very poor country. And they managed to have universal coverage of early childhood education from birth to the time they go to school. How they do it? I went there, I saw the teachers, but they don't work alone. They have also the health agent there, the community working there. So if you have at least one parent at home, the child stays home. And they meet in public places at home, and the teachers go and visit. You have a replica of this in Brazil. But in Brazil, you cannot have a teacher to do that because the system of education only conceives education when you go to a building, to school. Okay, informally, non-formal visit, home visiting, this is not this education, it's something else. So they did it from health, and they connected to education, and they visit every child, every rural child, and they work with them. So even in some cases when the parents don't understand, just by having the chance of going there, visiting, you can create this new motivation. I want to refer to a model in India. We were supporting a project that were cooperatives of women. These women didn't have much capacity. They were just having crèche for children, so they were not teachers. Some of them couldn't even write, or barely could write. And one of the first interventions that for me was amazing. First, just having the child inside the crèche, even though don't pay attention to the environment, to the methodology, to the training, forget about that. But those girls were taking care of children that otherwise would be in the street, exposed to other things. So that was a big gain. The second gain, they care for the children. So we started to introduce a kind of adult education by helping the caretakers to write a diary, to write 2 lines about what the children did today. First, they only say what they ate, if they were having a bath, only that. Then we start to say, but you can say, did they sing? Yes, they did. Oh, that's important, put it there. So what I mean is that it's not just educating the child. You know? In fact, it's educating the adults around the child that makes the difference. And I think now we're exploring something new. That's the second example in Peru, is that we have discovered that children organized can do a lot for their children. I'm not talking about the child-to-child project in Africa that I found remarkable, interesting. I found it something more spontaneous, but for us it has been like an eye-opener. We have seen teenagers and elder children helping other children without much support, and we're trying to reinforce that capacity that they already have. So it's an experiment, but I hope in the future we can talk about that with more empirical evidence that we need still much.
Are you suggesting a topic for WISE
I
2013?
think that could be something to explore. We are starting already funding a project this year, starting a longitudinal study about how children organized can help children when situations are extreme. I hope we can take it and we think about this. It's a new potential.
Organizers, this is recorded. Thank you very much, Leonardo, for the suggestion. Colin, you wanted to have to add a word before Leonardo comes back to.
Yes, I think this discussion is pointing up some enormous cultural differences. To hear about the opportunities to bring parents into school to help with teaching, or to assist parents in their homes to deliver some sort of education. These sound like big challenges, but we also have to face the fact that in many parts of the developed world, that would be a luxury, to have parents who are available to come into a school, or to have parents who have enough time at home to give any attention to education. The huge problem that we face in the West is that the family structure has to a large extent disintegrated. A large proportion of families have only one parent. Even with 2 parents, they're frequently both employed and out of the home much of the time. And I think the school system has to accept, the early school system has to accept that to some extent it is a surrogate for parenting. I must assume some of the responsibilities for early education, which were traditionally performed in the home.
Thank you very much. Leonardo, you suggested, you talked about Cuba and Brazil and Peru. You come from the middle of this triangle.
Yes.
What about Venezuela?
Well, I was working in Venezuela with, for children in different circumstances for a long time. I was in academia, university, and NGOs. I can say that before, when I left the country in the 90s, we have a huge program that was massive of daycare that I could say was better than preschool. And I was later the director of preschool, so I can say it. Okay. So the thing is that we had this, I was the director of preschool, and I had to go and see things absurd. When I see, for example, visiting indigenous places where children were in the river, and when they were told the director is coming, everyone left the river, entering a poor shackle there with something bad quality, everything, not toys, not nothing. And they say, forgive us, professor, we were just having some fun because it's so hot. I say, no, I can't forgive you being in the river, but being here is unforgivable. The children should be there learning. So the thing is that the daycare somehow were free to include play, to include more dynamic things, to include the things in the environment. And I had to say that the best thing that we left when I left the country, so now they're using, I think, sometimes too much luxury. I think that you don't need that much. But the thing we left is that instead of fighting for children between education, care, health, we had to work together because it's an holistic problem. So learning is learning. It's not about teachers. A good teacher shouldn't be herself or himself like someone with a blackboard teaching something or knowing more than the student. Not anymore. That is over. So a teacher had to see themselves as an architect, an engineer, a promoter, someone that creates conditions, help create conditions, and make alliances. And that's how I think we're trying to push. I think that now we have more opportunities to do it because we are more aware about the need of education than before.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, if I understand you well, you also consider that's what you said just before, that not only education, but specifically early childhood care and education has a key role to play in order to fight and reduce inequities and inequalities of socio-economic or socio-cultural nature. I'm convinced myself of that, but it is completely intuitive, kind of. So I would like to hear the experience of a professional on this.
Well, I could say that we moved from attending 2,000 children to 360,000 children in 4 years, just by shaping a good program of home visiting. So it's possible. In Brazil, in Rio Grande do Sul, they picked the project of Cuba, of course, with more resources than Cuba, and they managed to scale to the whole Rio Grande do Sul. It's a state bigger than probably some other country in the neighborhood. Okay, and they managed to scale. They did in the Amazon, for example, in Maranhão. I think I told you the story about how they dropped more infant mortality in 70% just by flagging houses. And this is kind of interesting thing. So when we think about policy, we think about someone there writing a big document and communication and agreements. But this was so simple. It's just putting a flag wherever a pregnant woman was, make community to be aware of them, notice them. And only by noticing them, everything went around. So they learned that they shouldn't give babies black beans. So only that thing saved life. The Peruvians took the idea and they flagged places where houses are flooded by the Amazon River, and they put flags, the kids put flags, and so they could take care of children 2 to 6, that's the one that fall in the river and die. So every year they have a number of children dying in rivers. This year they had the higher flood, and no child died this year because the community could flag it. So what I mean is that the same in Venezuela, same in Colombia is you had to use the knowledge, and you had to share the knowledge with the people that is interested. So for me, good policy is a policy that listens to the beneficiary. So they are the ones that know the answer. And you had to go, you had your expertise, professional, but you had to hear those experts that are there in the community and live it every day. So
thanks a lot for a very positive and optimistic message. Now, educating parents, as we said, is something important, and you bring the knowledge in, etc. However, if we start to worry them, apparently worried parents can be very detrimental in terms of that. Am I right, Butaina? That's what you suggest.
It's very important to make the parents feel welcome at the school and comfortable with the school. So how this happens is through communication. Now, when the teacher communicate with the parents about their children learned throughout the day and what they have achieved, they feel more comfortable and more relaxed and more willing to let go.
More willing to let go.
of the children, yes.
This is a very powerful message. Just let go. I like that one. I like that one. Thank you very much. Sophie, you wanted to add something about this. Allez-y, si vous vouliez rajouter quelque chose.
Merci. Pour moi, ce n'est pas faire le contraire. Ce n'est pas dire non. Mais j'accepte avec vous et j'accepte avec vous aussi. Mais j'aimerais ajouter que l'activité que nous avons prend conscience. D'année, je ne parle pas dans l'ensemble, mais maintenant, les enfants qui naissent. Et vous parlez que c'est les parents ont trop occupé sur le terrain. Et on a dit que, madame a dit que les parents doivent aller rencontrer les éducateurs à l'école. La période 0-3 ans, qui existe, qui travaille, qui fait ce rôle-là. C'est ça que c'est très nécessaire, ces parents et les grands-mères, les grands-pères et les entours des enfants qui aident à stimuler. Un autre point, c'est comme on a mis en place le projet animation parentale. C'est comme je parle avant, c'est ces personnes-là qui peuvent entraider. Et une autre qu'on a pris l'expérience de India, on a fait les activités, on peut parler home base. Oui. C'est les mères, les groupes des mères, les groupes des parents qui s'entraident. Les groupes des grands-mères, des grands-parents qui s'entraident de ces activités-là. Donc, l'activité peut fonctionner bien selon que la méthodologie qu'on a fait, les outils qu'on a utilisés, les locaux qui aident à stimuler ce programme pour sa progresse et pour aider les enfants. Parce que la période de 0-3 ans, c'est très très important. Si le monsieur que vous présentez, le cerveau, que dans cette période-là, c'est très important et ça développe plus que 3-5 ans. Et après 6 ans, ce n'est pas rien du tout. Mais le développement, ça presque fini et on a utilisé les cerveaux qu'on a déjà et les connexions des cerveaux, c'est qu'on a déjà. Aujourd'hui, j'aimerais présenter que l'expérience au Cambodge. Autrefois, nous savons que les écoles maternelles publiques, mais c'est insuffisant. Le gouvernement pauvre, on ne peut pas répondre aux besoins. Pas de bâtiments, pas les éducatrices compétentes, pas les éducatrices de qualité, pas les ressources humaines qui aident les éducatrices, les co-enseignants par rapport à la petite enfant pour bien améliorer. Donc, j'aimerais dire qu'on a créé les services sociaux, discuté ensemble avec le gouvernement. On a premier départ qu'on a fait le pilote avec l'UNICEF, on a fait le pilote avec l'organisation Enfants et Développement et Coursagen, c'est l'organisation applicante. Donc, on a cherché une autre, c'est alternativement avec l'école maternelle publique. On a fait l'école maternelle communautaire. Cette école-là, c'est l'école des communautés, c'est l'école des parents, c'est l'école que les villageois prennent conscience d'aider leurs enfants. Première étape, ce n'est pas il a une compréhension claire par rapport à l'importance de la petite enfant, mais c'est une partie qu'on voudrait aller chercher la vie et c'est une partie qu'on a dit que dans les écoles maternelles communautaires, il y a une jeune qui aide, qui fait les activités avec les enfants, c'est joue, on voit que ces enfants, c'est très très joyeux. Et en plus que le retour à la maison, ils peuvent faire les choses. Mais il note pas, il n'a pas de compréhension. Il voudrait qu'à l'école maternelle, on apprend à lire, à écrire, comme le primaire. C'est comme ça. Donc, on a changé. Et maintenant que l'école maternelle communautaire, ça touche. On peut faire dans le village, à la pagode ou dans l'endroit consacré et où on a attaché au primaire. C'est comme ça.
Oui, merci beaucoup. Zambi, just as Colin said before, we obviously witness here huge cultural differences when you refer to the family structure and the way that even several generations can actually, maybe should, contribute to the education system. That's to the education of children. Sorry, that's certainly something that is extremely or more and more difficult to see in the West. Now, one question, Colin, please, before, just after what Safi said, and before we move to policy. Do you think that there are some tools that could compensate for the lack of traditional family structure as a support and etc.? We have one of the questions that you always have, I'm sure, anywhere you go, anywhere you show up, etc. Can new technology help in a way or another develop the children's brain in a positive way? And I would add, and even compensate for whatever is lacking? But quickly, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, a very simple statement is that it is inevitable that technology and adaptive technologies of various sorts will invade the classroom more and more. And that's not just in the West, that will be everywhere. And indeed, adaptive technologies, computer-based techniques, web-based methodology, may give a chance for developing countries to move much more rapidly, to jump over, to leap over a stage of development of their school systems to a much more advanced state more rapidly. But we need to think about the design of those technologies, and knowledge of neuroscience, I think, must underpin them. We have to recognize that the presence of the commercial sector in developing technology is essential, but not necessarily always guided by the best principles. The commercial motivation, for instance, to sell products to highly motivated parents on the basis of an assurance that these things will help their children, give them an advantage and so on, can be ill-founded and can be very misleading, I think, and unhelpful to parents. But technology certainly offers an opportunity. Sensitive periods do not end absolutely abruptly. They decline gradually. So there is an opportunity to substitute for missing early stimulation at later stages, but it becomes more and more difficult. I give one good example. The big study of Romanian orphans conducted by Michael Rutter in the UK studied groups of orphans who had initially been kept in very deprived conditions, deprived of sensory stimulation, of social interaction, of language, and so on. So very significantly deprived young children. If they were adopted into UK families at about 6 months to 1 year of age, initially their cognitive abilities were hugely reduced compared with normal, but they recovered very quickly. But if they were adopted after about the age of 4, there was a persistent huge deficiency in cognitive performance, a 30 IQ point difference in average intelligence, for instance.
30,
So
30.
As a result of deprivation over the first 4 years of life, which was not restored by putting these children into good homes and good educational system.
Wow, impressive. So basically, where do we go from here? What can policy actually bring? What should policy actually bring as far as early childhood is concerned? What to do next? Butaina, that's your field.
As mentioned earlier, the parents are the first educator of a child, so parental inclusion is very important and should be addressed at policy level. Studies showed that parents who are more involved in the education of their children, the children have better academic gains and they have less developmental problem as they move throughout the system. One final thought is that investment in early education is an investment for the future. When Qatar Foundation started 15 years ago, the first center was established was Qatar Academy, which was a K-12 school. And that was the first step towards a vision of knowledge-based economy.
So basically, you are optimistic about what policy can actually do in terms of improving the education and the development, the harmonious development, as somebody said, not only of the brain, but of our children as holistic beings, if I may say so.
Yes, I believe that, now people are more aware of the role of early childhood education and the role of parents and how they can influence the development of their own children. So hopefully, yes, policy can change that.
And this is also the mother who speaks, right?
Yes, this is mother speaking.
I trust your experience. Thank you very much, Butaina. So that just before we give an opportunity to the audience to ask questions, I would like the three of you to basically quickly react on this, starting with Sampi. Can you please tell us what you think about? Yesterday you told us that investing on early childhood is actually, even economically speaking, a good thing in economic terms. Can you please elaborate on this, but quickly, please? Thank you.
Bien. J'aimerais présenter que l'investissement dans les jeunes enfants, dans la petite enfant, ça donne que beaucoup de résultats. On a fait la recherche en dollars. Pour aujourd'hui, c'est après qu'on peut réussir $7 dans 3 ans. Mais on a la recherche. Et en plus, j'aimerais dire que donner quelques exemples. Par exemple, on a fait bien par rapport à la petite enfant. Un seul point que l'enfant n'a pas malade. Les parents, c'est resté l'argent-là, pas la peine de faire guérir les enfants. Si on a participé dans ce moment-là, l'avenir, la famille, l'enfant soi-même réussit dans la vie. Ça, c'est très, très grand, important et réussit beaucoup. Deuxièmement, sa famille, selon ses enfants, elle réussit aussi. On peut gagner, on peut économiser beaucoup plus. Et la société aussi. Parce que si les enfants, c'est bien, et nous avons beaucoup de ressources humaines compétentes, de ressources humaines dynamiques, de ressources humaines très intelligentes, ça, la société, ça fonctionne très bien. Donc, ça, c'est le résultat de la petite enfant. Et on a parlé plusieurs, hier et le matin aussi, on a parlé que le primaire et l'éducation, on ne prend conscience pas sur l'importance de la petite enfant. Parce que dès la base, on a construit la base fondamentale pour les personnes. Hier, on a parlé que les 4 piliers de l'apprendre. Apprendre pour savoir, apprendre pour savoir faire, apprendre pour savoir vivre et apprendre pour soi-même. C'est pour connaître soi-même. C'est ça, les 4 piliers-là doivent construire dès le moment de la petite enfant.
Wow.
Ça va?
Thank you so much, Anfi, for that. Leonardo, por favor.
Gracias. To give a last statement, I would like to repeat something we say at the foundation is that early childhood is everybody's business. I like that because somehow we think that educators, and we all that do that profession somehow, we should think and see outside education. So more investment in early childhood is something that we are promoting in Latin America with the governments. We have connections. We want to see more investment, but more investment doesn't mean to repeat our mistakes, errors. We had to see the investment is there. We had to ask people to be accountable. This morning, Prime Minister, ex-Prime Minister, Mr. Gordon, talked about the importance of the Ministry of Finance. Yes, it's very important. You can be a Ministry of Education, but if you don't have agreements, if there is not an understanding with finance, you don't move the money. You can have the best curriculum, the best plans, and nothing happens in the ground because the money is not moving. But once the money moves, you have to make sure that you have more than one educator. Talking back about the Amazon, getting to children far in the jungle is quite expensive. Moving a boat to reach those people is expensive. And you can find the same situation in India, in some places in Africa. So many places you have isolated populations that are really hard and costly to reach. How you do it? Finalize. You don't have to have the bus of education or the boat of education. In Peru, they are making agreement with the Armada, the Navy, and the Navy has to go to the rivers. So they are using their boats, and they are allowing a teacher, a health agents, to use the same boat, and they can go and they can provide service, facilitating. So I think you have to invest more, but you have to invest better, and you have to ask every minister. I like when I will see even to producers, to the economy, a minister to say, what are you doing? How are you investing in your children? Because everyone has to invest. Everyone has to invest in children.
Thank you so much. Yes, just one more word, because we need 15 minutes for the audience to be able to ask. But please, no. Shoot. Allez-y, ça fait pas de problème. 1 minute. Et après, on passe aux questions. Oui.
Oui, c'est vrai que on a fait advocacy pour les ministres et aussi que les hiérarchies du gouvernement. C'est comme au Cambodge, c'est même que pauvre. Mais si les gens prennent conscience, on peut écrire, on peut préparer la politique nationale. Et ces politiques-là, ce n'est pas écrire pour écrire, ce n'est pas produit pour produire. C'est tout le monde qui sait et c'est toutes les personnes qui appliquent. C'est comme ça. Et donc, tous les ministres, ce n'est pas seulement éducation. C'est les autres, c'est la santé, l'agriculture, c'est l'intérieur et c'est rural et beaucoup. C'est tout le monde. C'est prendre conscience de la petite enfant. C'est ça. Je suis d'accord avec vous. C'est si le ministre ne prend conscience pas, comment nous pouvons améliorer? Mais c'est très bien. Et au Cambodge, j'ai une petite leçon que l'UNICEF et l'UNESCO, ça reste que être à stimuler aussi. Et les autres services locaux être à stimuler aussi. C'est ça que c'est très, très important de les personnes comprendre. Ce n'est pas une partie, c'est tout le monde. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Well, thank you very much to all of you. But now you will be able to answer the questions from the audience if you want to raise questions.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Habib, and I work for the HHO, Her Highness Office. I have a quick question. I mean, since morning we've been seeing a lot of examples of different regions talking about their projects and programs and how they work around dealing with the challenges, primarily in the conflict zones and in the areas of which are difficult to reach or isolated populations. But in general, globally, if you're talking about early childhood, I'm just wondering, and I may be wrong, you guys are experts, why are we targeting only at schools and parents? Why are we not looking at the other siblings or caregivers or people who look after the kids from 0 to 6, for that fact, and targeting them or building their capacity in order to have to deal with the kids in a better way, in a more effective way, to create a more global community? I mean, from my perspective, I think the global population agrees that early childhood education is really significant. But what are the real challenges and how would we deal with that?
Thank you very much. Who wants to take that one? Leonardo? Yes, please.
I think that we have been saying in the morning, and we have some agreement, that early childhood is not just a matter of parents, and it's not just a matter of schools. So early childhood is something that goes beyond the buildings or the sector. And I know the expertise is sometimes in the field and not here sitting necessarily. So every one of us has some kind of a parcel of the knowledge. But when you go and you try to solve a problem with communities, indigenous communities, the first thing you have to recognize that they also have knowledge. And sometimes some practice can be damaging for children. Very often can be good also for children. That's why they survive. And I think that your idea that we had to go beyond just teacher, mothers, because somebody's taking care of the child. And that's the network that you have to understand, you have to go. You can see children in the streets in many cities in the world, but children 0 to 3, 0 to 4, you won't see many. You can try counting, they will have someone taking care of them. Good or bad, they are. And you need to recognize that, and you should include them in the formula, even if you have to use your handkerchief in your nose and then try to meet them, because they are part of the formula.
Thank you very much, Leonardo. We had one question here. Yes, please. Can you please be as brief as you can with a question? We still have 10 minutes only to go. Thank you.
It's a small comment. My name is Nabil Costa from Beirut, Lebanon. I was very pleased to hear about the role of parents, especially with the students with the special needs. And I would love that to hear sometime in this conference, I don't know which year, the importance of special needs students in the Arab world, which I think to a certain extent they are neglected. And our ratio here is 7% like any other ratio in Europe or USA or in any other country. And I see the role of the parents, they need this awareness and this education because the therapists themselves are not helping as much, especially that we do lack this experience yet. I hope we can create a campaign to educate parents and help them understand the culture of the special need and what is integration and the culture of integration. It's not an easy word just to say it. To implement it, it takes lots of training and lots of awareness. I hope this place, and I can't read her name, Mrs. Al-Naomi, I hope this place can one time, thank you, can lead a campaign for students with special need. And by the way, I much prefer the word special need on disabilities. The students with special need to help them in the Arab world as they are privileged in the other parts of the world. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for this. I think actually, Butaina, you're the person to answer because the question refers specifically to the Arab world, and I don't think that any of us has something to say about it except you.
Thank you for your question. I would like to highlight the Qatar Foundation experience in this field. We have Awsaj Academy. It's an academy dedicated for children with learning difficulties. We don't even use the word special needs or disabilities. So this school is under the umbrella of Qatar Foundation and it has made a lot of progress in that field. When you look at the parents, we have information sessions. They really participate in the program. The same thing is the teachers are really qualified in this field, in special education, reading specialist, occupational therapy, and the student-to-teacher ratio is really small. We have 10 children per class maximum. And the center not only have the obligation to the students that are enrolled in the program, but also for the community. They have annual conferences for the teachers and the parents, and they have evaluation also, the services for the parents. If they felt that their children had any problem, but they couldn't really diagnose that, they do offer these evaluation services for the families as well as the other schools. So we have a successful experience, and I hope, inshallah, in the next WISE conference, we have a dedicated session on that.
Inshallah, you will be heard, yes, I'm pretty sure. Thank you, Butaina. We have time for one more question.
I just have a question regarding sort of attitudes, and aren't really parents and students all slaves to the attitudes and requirements that society has set? So all the innovations and things that we're talking about, aren't they only as good as the follow-through that we have for them? Thank you.
Who do you want to answer this one?
Anyone.
Anyone. Who wants to take Colin?
Well, if I understand the question correctly, I would say that evaluation of practices is absolutely crucial. It's clear that education is in the stage of development, of the opportunity for new ideas and methodology to be applied. But we shouldn't do that without putting in place, for every new approach to education, methodology for evaluation of its success or failure. So follow through is crucial.
Thank you very much. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Taufik. I'm actually a WISE learner, a student at the University of Warwick and French. So my question is for Mr. Blackmore. I really liked how you described how the plasticity of the brain is and the different periods at which it learns faster and better. And then how you talked about technology and how the logical step of actually making it happen with technology can be the future. So my question is, do you believe in a mass customization of education with the help of technology? And if yes, then how would that hypothetical system look like? Thank you.
Go ahead, you have 27 seconds, Colin.
Yeah. Well, certainly
that's enough to answer something like that.
Easy to predict that technology will be increasingly important in the classroom. Mass manufacturing of education or mass technology of education will have some value, I think especially in the developing world, but we mustn't lose sight of the variation in potential and needs of children, partly determined by their family circumstances and partly determined by their special characteristics. But there will certainly be a place for technologies for them as well. I think an interesting area to be addressed is the application of technology to special needs.
27, perfect. So with this, we have time for one more question, but again, we have 1 more minute total. Yes, please.
Thank you for giving this opportunity to me. My name is Jamil Abdulati from Palestine, Gaza. And I'm a psychologist, actually. And I appreciate the discussion that they mentioned about the importance of the family and the importance of parents. But the other component, I believe, the psychosocial component, which we cannot ignore it when we deal with the children. And the first line, when our children go to the school or go to the KG, we should teach them how to deal with our children. And the parents are considered as a first line. We should take care of them. And plus, the trauma affect the brain functions and affecting the performance of the children in the schools. And we face that when we work with the school counselors in the Ministry of Education schools. We find there's a big challenge with the teachers themselves under pressure and under trauma, and they cannot deal with the children. So this is another component we have to take care and consider while we're working with the children at the school or at the family environments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Butana, the final word on this, please.
I strongly agree with what you just proposed. It is very important that we educate the parents about that, as well as the teacher should be really qualified to handle such transitions. As you mentioned earlier, yes, the transition really affect the children emotionally. This is why we need to work together, the parents and the school, in making this transition as smooth as possible. Because this transition will occur in several times during the educational system. We're talking now about from home to nurseries, but then we have from nursery to the primary school, and then to the secondary, and then to the university. And the earlier experiences, it's always have an impact on the students. So, yes, I couldn't agree more.
So let's be careful, but at the same time, let's go for it.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.